Login accepted.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the tech capital of the world, Kernersville, North Carolina. And Kevin, China released something yesterday that we need to talk about, didn't they? Or like they
end
blew
of
up
last
the
week.
world, or yeah,
end of last week, they kind of like
something new came out. So
we thought we'd talk about it. Yeah. Well, that's one of the things we want to talk about, right? There's a few things, but we thought we'd talk about like AI, and we talked about AI a lot, but you know, new things keep happening in AI, so we'll talk about AI again. So yeah, we thought we'd talk about basically AI and what impact it's going to have going forward for software devs.
And I think that's the thing is a lot of these things happen, and a lot of it looks at it. The market looks at it in a negative way. I think we have a little different spin on it.
Oh, it definitely
a little bit about what we think. But
that's why it's news, though, right? That's why this thing is news, because it tanked the stock market for a day.
Yeah, but before we get to DeepSeek, so the Chinese AI model that was released that blew everyone away. If you've been not paying attention to the news last week, there was something that was released about Devin. And remember Devin?
Yeah.
Programmer AI.
Yeah. So this story you sent to me, I have the story. This story you sent to me, I think you sent to me at the end of last week, maybe or something. So this was, we thought we'd talk about this first because it was interesting. Yeah, the headline's kind of damning. It says, the first AI software engineer is bungling the vast majority of tasks it's asked to do. This is a pretty damning report, wasn't it? Too. It was pretty bad. It said, in the report, it had, out of 20 tasks, 14 were failures, just 3 successes, a 15% success rate on programming tasks they asked it to do.
Right. And everyone keeps telling me that I'm like barking up the wrong tree. We get comments on the YouTube channel all the time saying that,
always.
The only reason we say this is because we sell courses or a boot camp. And while that's true, I had a quote. I didn't forget to tell you this, but there was a guy that commented on the YouTube channel last week that just said that, you may be right. They're going to hire a gazillion web developers, but web development as we know it is dead. And what I want people to understand.
It's always been that way. If you're going down that road, it's always dead because it's always. If you mean it's evolving, sure.
It's changing, and they're going to hire a lot of people to do this. The thing that you need to understand is the only people telling you that AI is going to replace software engineers are people that are selling you these tools like this. And people are going to try to do it because a developer is expensive. But at the end of the day, the code has to be written. The code has to work. And I just don't think this Devin, the programmer, and a fully automated coding task-related thing is going to be what the market is going to support. I just don't think that's going to happen. You're going to use these tools in around it. And we may automate certain edge cases that we've always done so that you can do more. But it's just, there's a lot of work going on that's going to integrate AI into things. And I think more than likely, you're going to be asked to code an AI bot or code up an AI integration to a website than it replacing you as a dev and they just prompt their way to gold, fortune, and fame. I mean, I just don't think that's going to happen. So, and you can look at these things are failing. People are putting them to the test and hey, let's just, you said it, let's get Devin in here.
Yeah.
And, Devin gets fired because he doesn't know everything that they needed to know.
I mean, it got immediately outed, if you remember. There was that one YouTube video that blew up kind of after it. They kind of outed it. They said, it really can't do these things. It's not as good as it's saying. But people are now getting to the point where they're using it and doing these things and running it through these tests. And they're like, it genuinely can't do these things. Even now, kind of months and months and months after it first was released, their success rate was 15%. That's pretty bad. And 14 failures, 14 not even getting it right. 3 inconclusive, three successes. That's pretty low. You couldn't, if you're a company relying on this, that's an employee you fire.
Fire that guy. He doesn't know what he's doing. What do you mean? I need you to hit this.
Yeah.
I need you to complete every task I send you pretty much. I mean, we can't have you fail.
It's got to be at least 50%, right? I mean, bare
way
minimum.
Higher, man.
Bare minimum is at least get half of it, right? And then you just and then you still get fired.
Right. So you need to be really successful with this, So I think that what this should show people out there, and hopefully they're watching here, that there's a big, bright future ahead for us as developers because of this shift that's seemingly happened over the last 2 years. I mean, we didn't predict this, that we didn't see it coming. And then when we saw ChatGPT, we were like, wow, okay, this is going to change a lot of things. A lot of apps are going to be built on it.
Yeah.
So, but Devin's not doing great. I mean, I use Copilot every day. It's pretty good in some cases, and it helps me type in some cases. And sometimes I turn it off, but it's nowhere, I'm telling you guys, it's nowhere close to say, let me just prompt my way to this thing. It just can't do it because websites and general web apps are just too complex. There's just so many files and so many projects and all this interrelated stuff. And it just, just doesn't do that. It will assist you. I don't know if it'll make you 10 times better than what you are, but it's going to, there's some improvement. Copilot says it makes you 30 or 50% faster. I don't believe that. I think
it depends on like the scenario, doesn't it? It depends, like maybe in a certain scenario it does, but in another scenario it makes you slower. I think you have to look at like this net kind of overall, like where does it like speed you up, where does it slow you down? I think you're right. Like in certain cases, typing ahead is the thing. That's where it speeds you up. Right? It gives you the like, oh, I see what you're doing there. Let me finish that for you, kind of thing. Right. But the like, but again, even on that token, I've seen you do that, and then it's gone off on a complete different tangent, and it thinks it knows what you want to do, but it's like nowhere near what you wanted it to do. So even its predictive thing isn't always correct. And again, if you're making something kind of complex and there isn't a lot of training data on that thing, then maybe it's much slower. But if there's a lot of training data on it, then maybe it's faster. Again, it's like some scenarios are going to work, some aren't.
Yeah, and this is anecdotal, but like sometimes I'll have multiple versions of Visual Studio open, right? And Copilot's running all of those, and I'll be in one project typing up something, and it'll give me a suggestion it thinks is right, but I'm like, no, that's the other project.
Right.
That's not what we're doing here. Like, so it seemingly can look at other code that you have, and maybe if it's an open, So sometimes having two versions of Visual Studio open kind of gets confused to like which project it's working on. So. It'll give me suggestions out of the other project. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that right now. I'm over here. Pay attention, So like, but that's just my guess. I don't know exactly what it's doing, but like when it suggests code from over there, you're like, wow, you're looking at that. That's okay. It is code, but like,
right.
It's not what I'm looking for.
Let's talk a little bit about this new thing then, this DeepSeek thing that came out. So DeepSeek released this reasoning model. Just so you know, this is, and it basically caused a massive like issue, mainly with the stock market. I don't know if you can guess on this chart where DeepSeek was released. There's this cliff right here. This is Nvidia
right
stock.
There on that cliff.
This is Nvidia stock, by the way. This is the end of last week. Look, it was released, I think, like Thursday or something, but it had its like issue over the weekend. No, it might have been Friday. It had its issue over the weekend, and clearly Nvidia still hasn't recovered. By the way, 15% down over the last few days. So they got hit the worst out of everybody. I would say some of the rest of the tech stocks, because there was this bubble thing that happened, and it tanked everything for a chunk of time, have kind of like bounced back a little bit. I would say overall the tech market's kind of bounced back. Nvidia being the kind of the biggest exception, I think, in this whole thing. Yep. But so they released this thing, and that's why we're seeing it all over the news. Like, why? So why are we seeing it all over the news? What's the big deal about DeepSeek?
So the big announcement was, up until this point, we thought it took 100 million or 200 million or $1 billion to train an AI model.
Yeah.
And these guys release a model that's just as good as ChatGPT's model or OpenAI's models for $6 million. That's what they said. They're trading it for $6 million.
So that's the report, right? That's what they're saying. They
open source it, and you can run it locally. And so, oddly enough, in a way that I didn't know what we were doing last week, but last week we were working on something called Microsoft Aspire with one of the instructors here, and we were loading in a model to see how we could run something locally. And he said, well, I loaded in the R1 model, and at that point, I don't know every model by heart. I'm like, okay, that's the R model. What is that? And he goes, it's just another AI model that's kind of newer. Yeah. And we were running it locally on our Macs. Kind of cool. I had no idea that was DeepSeek, and I didn't know that it was like the Chinese model, and I also didn't know that it was, trained for $5 million. I thought it was something from one of these other companies. A lot of companies release these models and stuff like that. So, and it was pretty cool then. We were asking it all kinds of stories. The great thing about it when we were running in Aspire, Kevin, was like, not only could we load it without writing any code whatsoever because of the way Aspire works. We could also generate a front end for its own GUI that we have. So we're not using the Chinese website to do it or OpenAI's website to do it. It's totally local, all of our run. And that is crazy. And it was fast running locally on an M2 Mac. Okay. So, our machines have 32 gigs of RAM, M2 Mac.
Yeah.
Pretty good machine. It's not.
Yeah, but you weren't running it on some crazy server farm or something.
It was working, so it's just kind of cool. And I think that's what set the world on fire. And then, everyone's wondering, like, well, what about all these valuations for all these companies, and they didn't have many Nvidia chips. And that's what caused Nvidia to crash, because they're like,
well, they said not only did they not, they had a lot, but they didn't have the latest chips, is what they were using. Right. They were using like the 800, the older models, because that's what, I guess it's a specific Chinese model, because the US has obviously rules on shipping those chips out to China, the newest ones. So they didn't have the newest ones, they had the oldest ones. At least that's what we believe. Some other people have come out now. There are a million conspiracy theories
Elon
around
Musk
this, by the way.
has famously said they're using the new ones.
Yeah, there's lots of people saying they're using the new ones, and it costs more and whatever, and there's all these things. Now, we don't know whether that's true or not, but I will say both sides lie out of their... so like, I don't know who to believe here. It's like you're stuck in that middle. Like, are they lying? Don't know, because the US is certainly going to say they are, and China's going to say they're not. Yeah. So I don't know who to believe. But if we believe what they say, it costs less. And look at these benchmarks. These benchmarks are these.
You can't deny the benchmarks are better. I mean,
no, the benchmarks are better. They're as good.
And it runs locally too, and it's pretty fast locally.
They are as good as O1. On just about all of these benchmarks. Like the coding one, by the way, the software engineering one, it was as good as O1 on here. I think this one's another coding one too, is Codeforce's one benchmark. So kind of interesting. But here was the But here was the these were the benchmarks. So it was as good on the software engineering benchmark, and then the Codeforce's one, it was as good too, very much within margin.
So the blue stripe is DeepSeek.
And blue stripe is DeepSeek. The grey one next to it is OpenAI. Yeah. So it matched it pretty much across the board. For a model, but here's the thing: from a consumer perspective, the price is 1/30th of the price. That's crazy. That difference is insane. It's the cost thing. It's not half price. It's not a quarter of the price. It's 1/30th of the price for, again, similar performance. That's what blew it up. That's what blew up the market and was like, whoa, hold on a minute. Are all these US tech companies just lying to us to get money? Is that what's happening here? And that's what pulled back on the market, I think, and put everybody to pull all their money out of tech stocks for a couple of days.
Yeah. What I would say is, so like if you're watching this, should you be afraid of DeepSeek? And it's like, no, not really. Is this the end of development? No, it's not. I mean, like, it's just sometimes in these fast moving markets, true inventions happen. And when that happens, the rest of the market has to keep up. Now, here's what I would say, if you're like American, let me wave my flag right here real quick. Like Facebook started a war room immediately, and they have like 6 war rooms trying to figure out like how they did it, how are they running it, what did they do. OpenAI's come out and said, well, they cheated, they stole some of our data. And we're like,
this actually came out this morning that Microsoft and OpenAI have a probe into, like, because they think that maybe they took a bunch of data out of ChatGPT because they have access, I guess, to on the API level. Somehow they think they may have cheated something and extracted the information out of the API based on the number of calls they had to the API or something. So there's some evidence there that maybe they did steal something, which, true or not, I don't know. But historically, China, pretty bad historic rap for IP theft. Just
they don't
saying.
Care about they don't care about cheating. We're here to win. There's no rules in this.
Exactly.
So what that would tell me is long term, it doesn't look good for DeepSeek, because it's not just today. It's next year, year after, 3 years later. They're going to keep advancing this. However, what it does say is other people can do this, man. And like in competition, I think is really good for this. 100%. I am shocked it came from China, and I'm shocked they released it as open source. That's what I thought. They would just keep it in-house, but maybe they think they can get everyone to sign up for their API program and make lots of money that way.
But also just remember, this wasn't Alibaba that released this. This wasn't This wasn't the Amazon equivalent in China that released this. This is some like small place who apparently this was like a secondary project. This wasn't even their first thing. They had these chips and they were doing processes on them doing something to do with crypto and trading is what they were doing, and they had some extra processing power. So they said, let's have a go at this this LLM thing.
and everyone else is doing it, Kevin. Like,
everyone else is doing it. We have some extra power on these things, and we have some processing power here that's on the side. So let's look at this. And apparently they put something together and like, whoa, they're quite smart at math and good at that stuff, and they just were able to rethink something and put this thing together that is new invention, they're saying, right? They thought of a different way to ask the questions and a different way to program the thing. And that, kind of, that's where they're saying it came from, not from cheating and not from stealing and not from using different stuff. They're just saying, no, we thought of a different way to do it. And if that's true, like we were talking about this morning, if that's true, then Meta, OpenAI, all of these US companies are going to do it too. They're going to be able to figure it out exactly how it works, and they're going to do the exact same thing.
Exact same thing. So, and I do think it's funny that, they're probing OpenAI saying, hey, you stole our data. And we're like, yeah, I know, but like, these guys stole data too. Come on, man. Like,
It's true. I know, I do agree with that. That is funny, isn't it? It's funny. They're like, you stole our data. Hold on, where'd your data come from?
That New York Times article you were quoting behind a paywall. Yeah. Okay. You didn't steal that at all. So,
yeah, exactly.
But so I think that this industry is in flux. Here's the good news for developers. If this Chinese thing is true and you can run this for cents on the dollar versus what it was last week, this AI revolution is about to like triple. Like it's going to go gangbusters because now anyone can go do this. So I don't need, there's reports that Grok AI, Elon's group, were taking 100,000 of these chips and linking them together.
Right.
$50,000 a pop. I mean, like they're spending billions of dollars trying to train these models, and these guys.
Don't forget, Sam Altman wanted $7 trillion to build out his server farm, like his chip.
And so what that was going to do is like it's going to put this power in the hands of a few really big companies, and then you'd have to buy into that system at a really large price. We're changing in the U.S. We're changing our energy policy on AI. Like we're talking about like.
We're saying nuclear is okay.
Nuclear, natural gas. We need, they need them all, And so I've been listening to a lot of these senators talking about their energy policy, what they need to fund AI data centers. Like they need 3 or 4 of these energy plants in each state. And I'm like, this puts that on its head and says, yeah, it's not that cheap. It's pretty cheap and it's not that hard to do. So therefore the power requirements go down. You can run it locally. That's going to make a lot of innovation. A lot of people suddenly say, oh, I'm going to try building an app to do whatever. And that's what happened with web. Web was expensive at first, and then it became very not expensive, and you see what happened. It blew up, and here we are today, still building websites. So what I do believe this is true. I don't know what you think, Kevin, but I do think over the next 3 years to 5 years, and I would say even starting right now, developers are going to be continually and increasingly asked to say, okay, we have access to this OpenAI API, or we're running this locally. Make it do this or make it do something for me. What can we do with it? What can we do with it? I do think banks will change out all of their fraud detection tools with this stuff. I think that's an ongoing project that's always been going on.
Yeah.
I do believe that they're going to be running their own local AI models against this to
100%.
Fraud detection, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
I do think airlines will look at scheduling and all that kind of stuff that they may not, maybe they're already doing it, but they're probably still looking at it and going like, what else can we do with this to make flights on time better or whatever? And all of these major industries are going to take AI and say, what can it do for me? And they're going to ask that question. It's going to be more than a chatbot. And that's what people don't understand. We're not going to just chat GTP all day long and get all of our answers for everything. And you can see right now, like I was using Grammarly. I use Grammarly. It has AI built into it to rewrite your things right there in context. It's pretty cool. We said that from the beginning, that as the context comes closer to the app, it becomes increasingly more valuable instead of you going to a chatbot, asking it questions and trying to integrate with whatever you're trying to do. And so that's why Copilot is kind of cool, because it's right there in the ID with you. I mean, that's why it is cool. But it's not going to be a replacement for devs. Will we automate some jobs? Maybe. Maybe all chatbots will be AI, but we've seen this story before, and sometimes it works pretty good, but where you call in the place and they ask you to type in 4 or 5 if you want to talk to a representative, and you're always just hitting the 0 button so you can talk to a human. You don't want to talk to the menus. So I think those things could be improved with this. Maybe you can get a better voice on it and it sounds better, and maybe you interact with it better, maybe more personable. Will that eliminate customer service reps? Maybe some, but like, I think ultimately you're still going to need humans doing work that people need done. What I'd say for developers is learn how to code now, take advantage of it. This is a wave coming. Like, there's going to be a slew of apps written to do this, and like it or don't agree with me or not, and that's fine. Just go home and don't do anything about it. But like, it's going to be built on a website. Like fundamentally, yes, we will build mobile apps. We'll build set-top boxes. I'm sure Roku will try to figure out how to put AI in their device. But like, the majority of this, the biggest sector of this will be people building websites that do something, whether internal, external, building new types of tooling. And it won't just be writing a blog. There'll be very creative applications. And when you see it, you'll go, that's pretty smart. That's a good idea. And that's what's going to happen. It always happens, and it will repeat. So I think for the next, decade, we're going to see a revolution around this. It's going to get cheaper to do. I think we need to do a live. I talked to Jacob about this. We do a live of showing us hosting a model, like how easy it is to do with the Spire.
Yeah.
It's dumb easy. Like, it's not like, easy. Yeah, it's not like us having like, pull wires and like trying to figure out like, okay, like, it's very easy. 2 lines of code, and we had the R1 model running on a Mac.
Yep.
In 5 minutes.
Yep.
And so that is what's going to happen. And once that thing is running, then you can actually get to the work of programming it, prompting it, making it automate tasks for you. We will build agents. We'll build tasks. We'll automate some tasks. We'll do all these things, but we're going to have to code it to do it. So that's my hot take.
I think, I'm with you. I think innovations like this, where it becomes cheaper, more accessible, faster, whatever it is, doesn't mean it's a win for developers for sure, because it's just more opportunities. Like, people are going to realize, companies that maybe didn't have the budget for it before, like, hold on, maybe we do have the budget for it. Maybe we can actually bring it in-house too. Like, maybe we can get our own chips, and we can, hold on a minute, are you only telling me I need a few of these now? I don't need to rely on this $1 billion data farm down the road. I can just use this. I can make my own data farm in-house. I can spend $50,000 on these things maybe, and I can get a couple of these. Smaller companies are likely to do it. And guess what they need? They need developers to be able to interface with those into their apps.
That's what they're going to say.
That's it.
Yeah. That's it. And, and I think that's the exciting part about this. So, like, should Nvidia be worried? I don't think so. I think they're going to sell. Oh,
Nvidia's win-win in this.
Yeah, they could sell to 8 companies in America, and they'll buy every single one they make, which is why they're making so much money right now. Or they could sell it to every company in America, a few smaller lots to those people, because we don't need as many and more people will use them. And so look at like the CPU, like an Intel ramp up. Like, before, not many people bought the thing, and then now suddenly, I don't know how many Intel CPUs are in my house at one time, probably 6. Like,
too many.
So like, too many. I mean, and then the other thing that I do think will happen in Nvidia will probably dominate this market for a while, but there'll be another AMD like competitor that comes along that can make them compete harder. And this will get cheaper and cheaper to do by increasing the capabilities of things that we can build as developers. And I think that's the exciting part.
I think on this, Nvidia is win-win. This is not financial advice, but the dip for me is like an opportunity, because
dip, baby.
I think about it being win-win. Whether DeepSeek is like based on stolen IP or turns out to be just junk, or if it is what it is, because there's 2 scenarios here. Let's say that it's junk and they're like, oh no, you stole all this stuff and then we can't replicate it and blah, blah, blah. Then we go back to where we were before, and guess what? The stock was through the roof, and it's going to go back through the roof again if that's proven to be true. Other way around, though, if it is true and all of this stuff does work and it's able to be replicated, then my scenario of smaller companies buying more chips, that's what happens. It just becomes, you're not selling to 5 companies now, you're selling to 5,000 companies now. That just puts Nvidia back up again. It's win-win for them. I don't see a downside to them at all. Demand is only going to go up whether selling to a small group of companies or a larger pool of companies. It doesn't matter.
And I think the best case of this was surprising. I think Nadella from Microsoft had I think we had an article about that where he quoted this, where he said that this was a win-win for us. at Microsoft, and they own most of OpenAI. I mean, like he's not worried about that. So
I think because he sees the same things because
like
developers, because developers are going to use it's win-win for them because developers are going to use these tools either way. If it becomes more accessible, great, more developers again. That's because they make developer tools, right? That's
right.
that's his market, so he knows that to be true.
And so more people are going to be required to do these more advanced AI type things. And I think we probably could revisit this video 3 years from now, Kevin, and go talk about it. And I would imagine within 3 years, this will just be commonplace. There'll be AI frameworks that we're talking about that we're just using, and that's what we use. Like
right.
And it's an expected feature of the app. Like everything has some kind of AI integration to it. It won't be the app; it's going to be part of of other apps. And so that's where I think where everyone just looked at ChatGPT and the magic trick and like, wow, that's the last app we'll ever need. I don't think that's any way, shape, or form true. We're going to use it in other ways to do other things. And so it's going to be integrated into the app. It's not the app. It's not the finish of everything. Like it's not Skynet. I mean, so
I like Bhavani's take here. It says, I'm concerned that new developers entering the industry might become too dependent on AI tools instead of taking the time to truly learn and understand the fundamentals. I think we can agree with that.
I can agree with that 100%. Here's what I would say is if you know nothing, AI is really hard to use for programming. So you got to know some stuff in order to really use it. And so Copilot's not going to write your app for you, but it'll help you type a little bit faster and give you suggestions. It can help you learn things that you're not familiar with. I do it all the time. I might code, so I'll see a line of code say, explain this to me. What is this?
Yeah.
And then it'll go through the thing. I'm like, oh, okay. So that's what they were doing. I think it's really good at that, but it's not going to code the app for you if you don't have any knowledge. In order to prompt it effectively to do anything, you got to kind of know the system that you're working on, kind of how it works and what you need to do. You just need it to spit out some syntax that you don't have committed to memory.
Again, the number of times I've seen you use it and say, that's not what I want to do.
That's not what I want.
And you delete, or escape, whatever it is to get rid of that prompt.
Quit.
Your escape key's like worn out on your keyboard from using it.
Yeah.
But again, to Bhavani's point, somebody who doesn't know that would just accept what it does. And then you're so deep into it, then you're like, why doesn't it do this thing? Because 10 prompts ago, it did this weird thing that you didn't know what it was actually doing, and now the whole thing's broken. It's
all broken. You don't know how to fix it. So what I would say this, though, get used to it. It's coming. It's going to be here to stay, and learn how to use it and how to leverage it. Yeah. Can you use it early on in your career to rely on it? Yeah. But make sure that eventually you have to understand what you're doing, or you won't be able to fix it and make it work.
I think that's where it does come in good. It is a good learning tool.
It is good
to say, hey, explain this to me, explain this when you give it like something solid. I think it's worse when you kind of let it have free reign. Right, when it kind of can do anything it wants, it's not very good. But when you're quite explicit with it, it's actually quite good. It is good, definitely.
Yeah.
I've only had another point too, by the way, which I also liked. Not all jobs will be replaced, but AI can be a helpful tool, which we're talking about. Even if some roles are taken over, new opportunities will arise, just like they did during the Industrial Revolution.
100%, man.
Yeah, that's it. I totally agree with that.
What's the term they had for the Luddites? Where the Luddites were.
Yeah.
And we still use that term today. We think someone that's dumb, but really it came from the fact that they didn't. What is it? They didn't.
Somebody that doesn't embrace technology is what it is.
Yeah.
Or somebody who just doesn't embrace technology, who wants to live in the last generation of whatever it was.
Right. I mean, you can look at horses. We don't shoe horses anymore, so our blacksmiths got replaced. We don't need them anymore, but we have car mechanics. So like all of there will be work jobs. The jobs may change, but if you look in the future, learning how to code is not a job that's going anywhere anytime soon. And learning how to build a website definitely isn't. I mean, so it just can't.
Those skills will certainly change, just like they have over the last 20 years. Yeah. Building something today is very different than it was 20 years ago.
Yeah. Maybe 3 years now, we don't use C# anymore because of X. I don't know. I mean, but like, that's not really... Right. That's not what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about someone learning this skill set and then learning the next new thing and then keep advancing through this wave. It is coming, people. Like, it's coming. So take advantage of it. Whether you come to Coder Foundry or not, like, don't, it's coming. Now, if you don't believe it, fine, go do something else. It's okay. But, and it's not the only job in America, but like, it's a really good one. And it's going to be strong for quite a minute.
Definitely. Hey, I thought it'd be cool to do a demo on this new
Let's do it.
DeepSeek
Let's
thing.
demo some DeepSeek. See what this thing can really do.
Yeah, so I thought, I don't know, just to start us off with, we just do. So I thought just like a lot of people have done comparisons. So I think we do a comparison. So I just wrote up a Fizzbuzz like prompt to start us off with. So
you gave it a lot of information.
Yeah. Well, I generated this with AI. So I was like, give me a good Fizzbuzz prompt. So that's where this came from. I was like, oh yeah, this is actually good. So I told it to generate, I wanted it in JavaScript. JavaScript program that solves the classic Fizzbuzz problem. The program should iterate through the numbers 1 from 100, so the classic, Fizz for 3, Buzz for 5, Fizzbuzz for both, and the number if none apply. So this is DeepSeek, and I've had the R1 model turned on. So I figured we'd give that a shot. And then also I put the same prompt into ChatGPT, and we're using the O1 model, which is their highest reasoning model, right?
Okay.
So I thought we'd just do a comparison, see what we get. I've not tried these before, so I have no idea what we're getting here.
Stop it.
So we'll try DeepSeek first, see what we get. I've noticed the cool thing about DeepSeek, it has this really, really good thinking engine, which I think is what sets this apart from ChatGPT, and you'll see the difference in a second. ChatGPT would just be like, thinking, and then it'll kind of give you an answer. This gives you like the way that it thinks. It's logic behind it, which is super, it's super great. Like it's saying here, look, wait, but some people might in the first code checking thing, and it kind of like, it'll reiterate over itself.
That's the check. Yep.
This is kind of the reasoning portion of it. Some of these things, I asked it to do some prompts. They can take like minutes, 4 or 5 minutes to do some things, and it's constantly thinking like this. This shouldn't take that long.
DeepSeek is wordy, isn't it, man? It tells you all.
It's very wordy. It tells you everything. Yeah, it literally gives you, and then at the end here, look, it gives you the final output. And then we'll go over this here in a second, see what's done. Okay, so here's its final output. We'll go back to the thinking here in a second. So here's this JavaScript program solve Fizzbuzz, the efficient approach by building the output string. This is in JavaScript. So what do you think about its solution? Does it work?
Zoom in a little bit. My eyes are like old.
Maybe
not, but there we go. I can see it now. All right. So if %3 equals 0, output is
so it did a for loop, then it set a variable, a blank, and then it added to that variable Fizz if it's divisible by 3, Buzz if it's divisible by 5, and then outputted that. Does that work?
Okay. Or I, output or I.
Oh, I.
Yeah, I would be the...
Right.
Okay.
That works, right?
I think it will. I'd like to test it. But, let's see what OpenAI does.
Or approach avoids multiple divisibility checks and efficiency combines the conditions using string concatenation.
Yeah, I think it's combining Fizz and Buzz together.
It is, yeah. That's exactly what it's doing. Because it's the variable, like it has plus minus or plus equals, so it's adding the. Yeah. That's what it's doing.
So that would work. I mean, so if
I think it would, I think that would totally work. But I wonder if we go back through the logic look real quick, because it did a lot of logic here. Like it says, it goes through a lot of things. I'm assuming there's a point in here where it says, well, hold on, but what about this? There's various versions here. Look, it had like different versions that it went through, and then it says, wait, but some people might write the first condition is checking both 3 and 5 instead of 15. Either way is okay, but perhaps using 15 is more efficient. So it thought about efficiency, even in its like logic through here. It thought about like, I didn't ask it to write the shortest or best version of Fizzbuzz. I just said write a version of Fizzbuzz. But it did. It thought through its problems. It's great. And the fact that you can go through this and read this, I think is a totally selling point of using this model.
Yeah,
let's see what ChatGPT does.
See what it comes up with.
Let's see what ChatGPT does. Exact same prompt, by the way. Look, it just says thinking. It's thinking.
It's not telling us what it's thinking.
It's not telling us. No, it's just, there you go. It's just going to give us the answer.
Faster. It's a lot faster.
It's faster, yeah. It's faster in terms of this part, yeah, because it's not giving us the thinking.
That's good.
Okay, yeah. So this did exactly. Remember this. So this version it gave here. This is the early version that DeepSeek gave us, and it said DeepSeek was like, no, I can do better than that. This didn't. It just gave us this version. So it checked for 15 to Fizzbuzz, then it did 3, then it did buzz, and then it just did what? The number, right?
Yeah.
Using an if else.
I mean, that works too. And that's what we would see normally. Most people I don't see use 15. They'll do 2 checks if 3 and 5 is true.
Right.
15 is kind of clever.
Yeah.
But then it's in a conditional if statement.
Yeah.
So if that's
this
true,
this version's better.
clean, right?
But I'm sure ChatGPT, if given another option, would come up with another version.
I mean, you could probably put in here and
too,
say,
by the way.
try using a ternary operator, and what would you do?
Okay, let's try that.
Just give it that prompt,
Give me a version using a... Am I spelling that right? Ternary?
It's close enough. It'll figure it out.
Okay. Also, I'll tell you what else I'm going to do, which gives GPT an advantage over DeepSeek, I think, is that you can have Canvas. So I can turn on Canvas here, and it'll give me this cool version. So watch this.
Yeah.
It'll give me this slightly different UI at the end here. That I think is better for working with code. And DeepSeek doesn't have that. So let's see. I think I can add a canvas in partway through. Yeah, there we go. So it changes the UI look for this. So it splits my logic down this left-hand side now. So if my conversation is down here, and now my output's over here, and it's just better. And this gives me some coding tools too. Look, I can do some extra things that I couldn't do. Actually, you can't see that, can you? There you go. Some extra things that you couldn't do before. Some extra options.
And that technically works too.
Yeah, it's just some of the things here.
Not clean either. I wouldn't like that one either.
You don't like this either.
So,
you're right, because you can do this on a single line, can't you?
You can do it in a single line. You don't need to. You can just concatenate fizz and buzz together.
Well, let's ask it. Right.
Yeah.
Can I wait? What my prompt? Oh, it was an error generating response. It said actually. Interesting.
Okay.
See if it's going to rewrite it. Maybe I was
okay.
thinking.
Maybe it'll come
see
up
if it
with
rewrite it. Yeah, interesting. So there's pros and cons with using both, but the fact that out of the gate the DeepSeek one I think is better straight out of the gate is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
It's giving me the same answer.
Yeah.
Is there a version
using string concatenation? Now, what I want to show you right now is I know the answer to this. So now I'm bringing knowledge into the prompt here. And see, this is the problem coding with it in general is you have to know a lot about it. Yeah. So it finally got to the one that's, you put it all in the for loop. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, here we go.
There you go.
There we go.
So yeah, so it can plus.
It literally put it all on one line.
What it does, it'll plus an empty string to it if it's not available. So it'll either get an empty string or fizz, empty string or buzz, and so it'll work for both cases there.
Right, or the number at the end if it's.
Yeah, and this is essentially what DeepSeek did, but it didn't use a ternary operator, which I thought was pretty slick. I thought the way I honestly, man, I've seen a new way Fizzbuzz has been accomplished when I watched it DeepSeek, and I've made a video that's an hour and a half long on the different ways to do Fizzbuzz.
Oh, so this one was new to you?
Yeah, the way they did it, I was like, oh, that's right, that'll work. Plus,
okay,
clever. I mean, so. I'm not saying I know everything, but yeah, okay, I see what you're doing.
But come on, we've messed with this a bunch because we do it in the school. Yeah. It's like we've messed with this. We've literally had students write this on the board in class, so we've seen sometimes 30 different versions of this. If you've never seen this version, it's kind of that's kind of interesting that it's.
I hadn't seen it that way, so I thought that was pretty clever.
And I think the part that I like is the fact, and somebody actually said this in chat here too. I'll put this up here because I find this interesting. With DeepSeek now, we're trying to understand how AI thinks. It's probably too complicated to understand. It's not too technical or mathematical, but yeah, why not? And I agree with that too. We are seeing kind of behind the curtain a bit with this, the way that it's logically thinking. Whereas with ChatGPT, you can't do that. It just says thinking, and then it just gives you the answer. I like this. I like to be able to see how it thought it through because it's like, oh yeah, I could actually learn something from this too by the way that it came to its final conclusion. By the way, I considered this, I considered this, I considered this, and here's my best answer. It basically kept coming up with an
why
answer.
The other way didn't work.
Exactly. It came up with an answer, and it said, why does this fill the criteria, and why does it not? Is it the most efficient? I don't know. Is it the most efficient? And it's so cyclical, right? It asked itself questions about it, ultimately coming to what is a very cool answer.
Yeah.
I thought that was neat. I think it's cool. I think this tool is super interesting. Whether it's world changing or not, I don't know.
Well, we've sent our AI prompt to China now, Kevin. So
we have. Here's the difference too. Yeah. This cost me $20 a month. This didn't cost me anything.
It won't be free
right
forever,
now. Won't be free, I know, but it'll also be a 30th of the cost if I was using the API. So you know.
Pretty cool. And you can
but interesting. And you can rate locally, yeah. But this tool, don't forget, I do like the Canvas tool in OpenAI. I think the Canvas tool is very cool.
Yep.
That's really one thing that DeepSeek right now doesn't have. Right. Is that you can do some extra things with the Canvas too.
You can actually edit the JavaScript in here too.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Cool.
Yep. You can edit. You can edit on the Canvas. You can do some extra things there, which make it a little bit cooler from a coder's perspective. Whereas here you don't have those tools yet. I think they're going to come. I think this, if it takes off, is big enough. I think they're going to just basically copy everything that OpenAI has done, feature set wise, and pull it into this tool. And don't forget, this is their hosted version too. I'm using the Chinese hosted version to do this. This isn't running locally or anything. So yes, we did send our Fizzbuzz.
Now, one thing I've been using, I asked Fizzbuzz or asked ChatGPT the other day, does it know about me? Who am I? You know, and it knew a lot about me from all my prompts. I'm wondering if DeepSeek knows about Kevin Doyle, since you're using it. So like it's your using.
Oh, how would I ask that then?
Do you know anything about me?
Any information you have? Should I just say me, or you want to give like just me?
Yeah.
Okay. And not give it my name or anything?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Let's see what it says. Doesn't store personal data, it says. So it's thinking through the problem. Look, hold on.
And this is interesting to think what it's doing. If you went back and read this.
Yeah, we are going to go back and read. Look, so first it says, first I need to recall what information I actually have access to. Remember, as an AI, don't store personal information. Each conversation is separate.
Liar.
Keeping a track of those. Yeah. Then it like reasons out the user might be testing whether their previous interactions are remembered. Since they just had a conversation about generating a Fizzbuzz program, maybe they're curious if I can link to that to their identity or save any personal details. But according to my design, I don't retain any information beyond the current session. I should make sure to communicate clearly that I don't have access to personal data. Blah, blah, blah. So in the end, it just says, I don't have access to personal information about you, nor can I retain memory of past interactions. So again, another feature this doesn't have, which you can turn on ChatGPT and OpenAI. Which again, if you're coding and stuff, maybe you do want context to previous chats that you've had about previous pieces of code.
Like you want it to remember as much stuff as it can.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's what you want.
Yep.
Let's go see what your ChatGPT can do for you.
Let's see. Let's give it the same prompt too. I don't want to reword it just in case.
Yeah.
And these aren't new chats, by the way. I'm just keeping it in the same context window as the other one. So if that made any difference or not, I don't know. But they're both in the same window. Sorry, don't have any personal information. I have access to the text, our current and previous conversations here. So there's no anything about me. But let's say, give me any information. So you will be, actually, let me retype that. Give me any information you have about Bobby Davis Jr. from North Carolina. You should have something in here. And I'm probably going to have to turn on web search. I'm going to leave web search off for now.
Yeah.
Just to see what it comes up with. Oh, it says you're common, apparently.
It is common name.
Oh, but hold on. Yeah, it says it's not going to find anything. And then it gives me some suggestions for going to other sources to find some things interesting.
Okay.
What if you can do... What about Code of Foundry? Without explicitly turning on the web, I think it probably... Oh, okay. Oh, it knows about us.
Yes. China is coming after us, Kevin. We should be afraid.
they have lots of information about us.
Yeah.
I was just saying it's web information since July. It's cut off. Oh, that's interesting. I'll come back to that in a second.
Yeah. Look at that.
Well, everything I see there is right. Okay. Hey, links back to our website too, look. And it is the correct link.
Wow.
Wow. Okay, that's cool.
I wonder why it knew more about us and it won't know about individuals. I mean, so
I don't know.
I think they're just hiding the fact that they don't know.
Look at this though. Look at this logic here is so
me.
good. It knows you. So it does know you, look, because it says, hold on.
You tell me before.
It says, wait, in the previous conversation, the user asked about Bobby Davis Jr. from North Carolina. Could there be a connection? Maybe the user is from North Carolina, interested in local boot camps, emphasizing Coder Foundry's presence in North Carolina could be relevant. So it's trying to link back the previous part of the conversation. So maybe it doesn't know you. Its knowledge cutoff though is July 2024. That's another thing that OpenAI has over this. Its knowledge cutoff is like current. It's
right.
So that's interesting. Or way more.
It's the last time they stole the data from OpenAI was in July. So
maybe it's kind of interesting. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting tool. You can go sign up for this, by the way. It's at chat.deepseek.com if anyone wants to go mess with this, and anybody who hasn't already.
Here, full disclosure, you got to understand it is a Chinese website owned by a Chinese company, which, if you believe the thing, they're owned by the government and everything and run, but it's communist. So, but you're giving them information.
Yeah, that's another angle to this too. By the way, that a lot of people have pushed out that like, a lot of people have pointed out that it's like censored, and it is censored. You can't ask certain questions. Even the self-hosted model will censor some of your questions. But somebody also pointed out, so is the US one in different ways, and that's true. It's like it's pick your level, pick your censorship. I mean, that's like that's the way I look at it. What do you want censored? U.S. stuff or Chinese stuff? Right?
We're not getting this model because we want to know about the Chinese Communist Party, which is not going to tell us anything negative about it. So, like, that's not a reason not to get it or not to use it.
Yep.
If you're worried about your data being over there or something like that, then that's a concern you have. Then use OpenAI. OpenAI is taking your data in for sure. We can go to OpenAI and it knows about you, Kevin Doyle. I can guarantee you. We haven't tried that yet.
We'll try that in a second. But somebody asked me to. Ridge Raider suggested what is 1 + 1.
Oh, Ridge Raider.
I find that fascinating because it is like one of those like that's a dumb question. I think he intentionally posed it that way, but here's the logic behind it. Look, and it does have that same standard kind of thinking. It's like, well, clearly this is simple. It's 1 + 1, so I should just respond straight away. And then it's like, wait a second, hold on a minute. They've asked about these other things. Look, it knows our history within this chat. Look, so I should have probably answered this in a new chat. Asked this in a new chat, but you know. It also says, look, or maybe it's a joke. Its reasoning here is sound. It understands exactly what I'm doing here. And then it says I should answer too. But look, it says because it knows we're programmers, if you're working in binary, it'd be 10. Look at that. How good is that? Because it knows, like, hey, they asked about Fizzbuzz, so it must be about, like, they're programmers, so maybe they're asking about programming question.
Yeah. Actually, really if we were using JavaScript, what would the answer be?
We should ask. It should have answered that, shouldn't it? Too.
It's 11.
Should have actually put that in there. It should have put that in there, shouldn't it? That's funny. What do we want to ask? We want to ask over here. What do you know about me, or what do you want to know about Kevin Doyle? Well, I use your examples. So
you could use.
You think it knows you?
It did. Yeah, it did in my chats. It knew all about me. Like I was like, I just asked.
Yeah, but that was you though, right? So I'm wondering.
But now it's in a different chat window, so it's different context.
Yeah. Let's see. Here's what I'll do, just in case there's something weird. not that anybody else. Not that anybody else couldn't go do the same prompt.
Full disclosure, that's a NASCAR driver. You know that, so he dominates my web search results because he's famous in NASCAR.
It actually doesn't say that it knows anything.
Mm-hmm.
You are not a notable public figure.
That's good. All right, thank you.
just the way I like it. Yeah. So yeah, kind of interesting. Anybody else got any questions? They want to go through this? That could be kind of interesting to see because I think this is.
Ask ChatGPT what 1 + 1 is.
Yeah. Let me go take the. I'll do the exact same prompt. Would it have been in quotes? I'm not sure if it in quotes actually. It might have been, but there we go. This would just say thinking 2. There you go. I knew it was going to say that.
You used JavaScript.
It actually didn't think at all, did it there? It really didn't. It really didn't think at all. It just said, here's what it did. It did this first part here and said, basically it's 2. Look, it went this far is what it did.
Yeah.
And then it's like 2. That's as far as this model went. This one really thought about it. I find it fascinating. Getting the insight into the way that it thinks is really interesting and can teach you a few things. Because maybe we wouldn't have even thought like, oh yeah, of course, binary. That's like interesting trick question or something. Like it's kind of funny.
Because we're programmers, so it's kind of...
it's like, hey, well, they're asking about Fizzbuzz and boot camp, so therefore maybe they were interested in this version of the
What if you were using JavaScript? I wonder what it'll do.
I can't type. Yeah, but it changed it, didn't it? So
yeah,
it's assumed it's an integer. That's all it.
Yep. If you've ever used JavaScript, you know that'll come back to bite you sometimes. It's just like... The reason is because when you take an input from a front end, it's a string and it comes in natively as a string. So if you just got them get an LD, get value from input, it'll bring it in as a string and I'll add those two together and you'll get 11. So you have to
and here it's just assumed that it's an integer, and that obviously is an integer. It would be 2.
Yeah.
But interesting. Eli, if you do those kind of problems, this is what we're talking about with this. If I come back here real quick, ask if Taiwan is a country. Yeah, it actually has a canned response to that. I don't know if you've tried that, Eli.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you have been. You're asking the question, but it'll actually have a canned response. It doesn't even do it doesn't even do a thinking. Like it doesn't even think. Let me do it.
So what I would say is AI is not going to give you the answers like you want to know about that stuff. That's not. You got to go research that somewhere else. I don't think
but I think you also have to understand that's what it is. It is this is what you have to understand. It's kind of like it's censorship, or it's like way that it does and doesn't work is just part of the tool, right? I mean, this just refuses to even answer it now. I've seen some examples where it will answer the question, but it'll answer it with a literal canned response that is clearly pre-written. It is not thinking. It just writes it in a block of text and says, no.
One of the other examples that I saw, there's people testing these things. They thought that DeepSeek was a better writer, and can we put a story prompt in there, just see what we think. I know we're not professional writers, but just for fun.
Yeah, but we don't know if it's good or not. What do you want the story about? Let me do a new chat, actually.
New chat.
Why are you doing that? Let me pull it up. What do you want a story about?
AI is taking over the world and the struggle of one man to defeat it. It's like the synopsis of most of the movies right now, in theaters. So.
We want to use the deep think model again to do this.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know what else you would use, right?
This is where you can turn it off, and there's a regular model you can use. Okay. We're talking about the struggle. Look.
Yeah.
Wait, but the user wants a short story.
It's funny how it thinks through it.
Yeah. It's taking everything into account. Like it's saying, here's my idea, but hold on, don't forget about this. And it says, hold on, don't forget about this. And then what about this? Oh, pacing, look. Or check for originality. Ensure it's not too similar to Terminator or Matrix. How cool is that?
The Nexus is a pretty decent name. All right. You notice what I have noticed, though, when you write all of these spy novels, they always use Ethan, which I think comes from Mission Impossible. Personally, that's what I think.
Well, it's said not to compare it with Matrix or Terminator, not to compare it with Mission Impossible. So maybe that's always its thing. Wait, hold on though.
So
Let's see. Hold on. Let's see where did it get the name from? Look, so because it'll tell us that reasoning. Look, so it's okay. Need to name the AI and the protagonist. The AI could be something like the Nexus or Prime Intelligence. The man's name maybe Ethan, Dr. Ethan Cale, the creator. So it doesn't tell us where that came from, but it, Yeah. But yeah, maybe you're right. It's something to do with.
Well, Mission Impossible 3 is Ethan Hunt versus the AI.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
7 or whatever it is, the numbers.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not going to read all this though.
No.
On stream, but it did come up with a short.
You would use the word impossible. This is impossible.
That would be good, wouldn't it? If it did that.
So.
Hold on, let me start a new chat here too. That. Let me do. See what this one comes up with.
I do think OpenAI is faster. There you go.
It is because it's not doing as much thinking. Yeah. I think we can figure that out.
They do have a write for me prompt, which I don't know is better or better suited for this. At least we didn't use Ethan, it's Jasper.
Right. So similar length. Didn't come up with chapter titles. Didn't give it a title at all. Actually, just came up with. There you go. So the one came up with some. This one came up with, it had some kind of structure look that it put it into. I wonder if that's part of its thing here too. Look. It's thought about pacing. Talked about a backstory. Interesting. This one maybe did similar things, but we don't know because it didn't show us the workings behind it. But I do find it interesting that this one just like came up with a story, and there's so much more in DeepSeek as to how it thought.
Yeah,
I do find that fascinating. But both wrote stories. I don't know. It's good for I don't know if you're a developer and you just need to come up with some kind of data for something. Kind of good for that kind of perspective.
Well, I was just showing that right there. What we could do is say. This is one thing. I'll just show my tips and tricks. One of the things I do is like I have a data set with name and first name and last name and address. Generate 100 records with this in JSON.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go. In JSON. Yeah, because it'll do that.
Yeah, and it'll do it. Yep. And then I'll take that and plug it into an app. So.
Yep. Yeah, definitely cool for that. Yeah, definitely interesting. But yeah, I'd say if you haven't messed with this, and you developer, go try playing with this. Right now, it's free. I don't know if I'm assuming there's limits on usage. I don't know. I haven't hit them yet.
Well, it's running on, two chips from Nvidia. So I don't know what it's doing. I don't know how they're doing it. They got a lot of traffic this week. I can guarantee that.
Oh, I guarantee they did. It was having trouble with signups yesterday, maybe. Was it yesterday? The day before? I think Monday when it first hit big, signups were an issue. But as of now, I think you can get in now. I think you can sign up. I signed up early, so I don't know, but I saw they were having problems. But I think they fixed a bunch of them. Yeah, I would definitely go check it out. So what do you think? Back to our original premise before we jump off here. Then, you think DeepSeek is the death of developers? Is this the thing that's going to push it over the edge?
No.
Do you think there'll ever be a thing that pushes it over the edge?
No, I don't think so. The problem is that we're on this upward trajectory of complexity, so it gets more and more complex because we get more and more demands of the things that we can do. And so more and more demands on the user require some more innovative solutions. And so as it's building up things like web builders, if you look at the evolution of web builders, it's never really caught up to web app development. It's always behind that.
Yep.
I mean, even the most sophisticated web builder out there has problems with forms.
I saw a great video talking about no-code tools and web tools. And here was the biggest. This was from a developer, right, who decided that they wanted to do a mobile app, but didn't want to learn a new language, right? They didn't want to learn Flutter or the iOS, I forget what it is, Xcode or whatever, or do Swift. Right. Yeah, they didn't want to learn the tools, whatever. They're like, I'll just use a no-code tool. The biggest problem they had was, and this is what they now call it, it is a 90% completionist tool. It'll get you 90% of the way. It will not get you 10% of the way, that last 10%. And the problem is, to get that last 10%, you have to understand the code and be able to write that last 10%. The first 90% that is done and works, the problem is the code's like spaghetti code. It's apparently so bad written out of these no-code tools that it's almost unusable. They ended up going back to the drawing board, hiring a dev and rewriting the app in 2 weeks. That tells me everything I need to know about these. It's good for canned things. As soon as you come out of that box, it's now no code or low code or whatever you want to call them is not the solution.
It's always out of the box. So that's what people don't understand. When you get in the industry, everyone has a custom solution. They think about it in a custom way. There's different requirements on the data. We have a different data set. Like it's never Fizzbuzz, Kevin. Like it's just never
right.
Fizzbuzz.
It's never Fizzbuzz.
You can do that, like and you're like, oh, it can code. It can code anything. Not so much. So like, because they have all these other things that are going on in the industry in the business that just aren't. It doesn't know about them and doesn't know how to solve those types of problems.
Yeah.
So even trying to low code an app, I want to build an app and I need registration, I need payments, and I want to use Stripe. Well, I don't know how about and so like there's a lot of things that you want to do that the business is requiring you to do that it won't get there. So it's 90%, which is nowhere pretty much. Means like okay,
that's the problem. They had to rewrite the whole thing. Like it was an unworkable code base to write even to get a developer to write the last 10% who understood it was like, yeah, but it's done it this way and this way and this way, and it's like it doesn't work.
We need to fix it.
Yeah, exactly.
Give me a couple of weeks, I'll fix it for you.
She said they actually rewrote the whole thing. They rewrote the whole thing. I should link to the video. After this, I'll put a link down in the description because I did watch this the other day and I was like, oh, that's super interesting, and it just popped up in my feed randomly.
Yeah, and then what low code and no code tools can't come from or can't solve is like you go to the business unit and they're just irrational. And you get these irrational requests and you try to convince them like, hey, maybe we should do it this way. It's easier. And they're like, no, I want it this way.
Put that flag on the button, Bobby. Put that flag on the button.
You're putting the American flag on the button. Like, I don't want to. Like, I'm not doing that. So, like, it's stupid. Well,
doesn't matter.
I want the flag on the button.
That's good.
So.
Cool. Okay. Let's see. One last thing then before we.
Okay. One last comment.
Yeah, we'll put an last comment up here because I do agree with this. It's like a car I gave you, but you need to assemble all its parts without knowledge how to fix a car.
Yeah, all the parts are there.
Yep, that's it. It kind of works, but I don't know how to fix it because I know nothing about cars or how this particular one was put together.
No. Like, I don't know how to do that, like, I'll need some help for that. So.
And even in my scenario, even a mechanic was like, hold on a minute, who put this car together? This is terrible.
Exactly.
They put this wheel on backwards. Yeah, it turns. But it's on backwards. They shouldn't have done that.
Transmission goes in reverse.
Yeah, over time this is going to fail or whatever. The wheel's on backwards. Yeah, it's funny. Okay, let's wrap this up.
Those parts aren't the right parts. That's the other part.
Yeah, it could be true too.
Just gives you stuff. And it's like that doesn't fit, man. I don't know.
It's a wheel, but it's the wrong kind of wheel. Yeah. Okay, we're back again next Tuesday. I realize today's Wednesday because we're a day after today, but we'll usually be here Tuesdays. We'll be again next Tuesday. We'll be back again next Tuesday. I don't know what we're talking about next week. We'll see. Maybe DeepSeek will force us to talk about something else or some other weird thing will come out.
And the world ends and we'll be on here saying I was wrong. But like until then, learn to code. I'm just telling you. So like Code of Foundry or not, but like go after it, people, and take advantage of this opportunity. It comes around every few often, and you're right in the middle of it. This is like the web innovation in 97, 98, 99. You're seeing it. You're living it. Just go take advantage of it. Go for it.
There you go.
All right.
We'll see everybody next week.